Have you ever felt like your life is too small for the size of your soul? Today, we are going to discover why this restlessness is not a flaw, but a sign that you are awakening to a greatness that cannot fit into ordinary days. The world tries to numb your search with fleeting comforts, but ignoring this call is to condemn yourself to an empty peace. The time to translate your anguish into spiritual power is now, before external noise silences your essence for good. Through decades of deep observations, study of the soul, and constant meditative practices, I have learned that true elevation does not reside in ecstasy, but in the silent constancy of those who dare to look into the abyss. Perhaps you feel that you lack the strength, or that your mind is too restless for spiritual awakening. But understand, real greatness does not demand perfection. It only demands the courage not to accept less than who you truly are. In the next few minutes, I invite you on a brief journey of inner re-education, where each word will serve as a seed for your soul to once again occupy the space that belongs to it. Here is the initial development of your script, integrating the profound introduction and the first two topics, uniting the aesthetics of Baudelaire with the strength of African philosophy under the archetype of the magician. There is a silence that does not bring peace, but a restlessness that vibrates in the center of the chest. It is that strange feeling that, although you have built a life, you do not coincide with it, as if your soul were an ocean trying to fit inside a glass of water. Often, this anguish is labeled as a problem to be corrected, a flaw in your personal development. But what if I told you that this pain is, in fact, your greatest dignity? Today we are beginning a journey into the spirituality of verticality. We will understand why your soul refuses to accept a small life, and how to transform this restlessness into the fuel for your spiritual awakening. But to transform this flame into a path, we must first dive into the root of this feeling, into that space where what we are today does not yet reach what we were made to be. To understand our greatness, we must first validate our pain. Charles Baudelaire, the poet who dove into the shadows to find the eternal, reminds us that spiritual life is not a state of comfort, but a constant tension. He saw a dualism in humanity, the weight of the fall and the longing for elevation. In the perspective of African philosophy, this restlessness is the call of our Ori, our divine consciousness, seeking to align itself with ancestral purpose. When you feel that your current life is just a narrow frame for a vast essence, you are experiencing the pain of non-coincidence. This distance between who you are today and the immensity you feel inside is not an error in the journey. It is the sign that you are a being in expansion. Self-knowledge begins when we stop fighting this emptiness and start listening to it. Remember, emptiness is not absence. It is the womb of the sacred, the space where your true form is being gestated. And it is precisely in this silent gestation that many get lost, confusing the hurry to arrive with the patience necessary to flourish. Many seek the awakening of consciousness as if seeking a firework, a moment of ecstasy, a weekend insight that promises to change everything. But real spirituality is made of a denser and more resistant material. Baudelaire already warned us that true elevation is not achieved through fleeting enthusiasms. Enthusiasm is like a passing wind. The construction of the soul is like the growth of an ancient tree. Here, ancestral African wisdom teaches us about the power of continuity. Greatness is conscious repetition. It is the daily ritual of returning to oneself, even when there are no bright lights or earth-shattering revelations. Spiritual elevation requires fidelity to a measure that you have not yet reached, but that you know exists. In your personal development, avoid the trap of believing that you only grow when you are motivated. The soul is not in a hurry. It has rhythm. True inner transformation happens in the silence of your practice, in the constancy of those who choose, every day, not to be reduced to the mediocrity of the world. Your human greatness manifests when you transform your search into an ethical posture and a presence that is not satisfied with ready-made answers. This refusal to accept the obvious is not a common rebellion. It is, in fact, the foundation of a courage that the world rarely understands. In a world that constantly invites us to smallness, desiring greatness is not a whim of the ego. It is an act of spiritual resistance. Frequently, we are taught that personal development serves only to adjust us to the system, to be more productive or less anxious. But contemplative spirituality reveals a deeper truth. There is a rare demand in you that refuses to be silenced. Charles Baudelaire saw in the artist and the truth-seeker a struggle against the gravity of mediocrity, that invisible force that tries to reduce us to the nearest and most comfortable limit. In African philosophy, this force of resistance resembles the cultivation of character, iwa pele, which sustains the being before the hardships of life. Having courage is not about being fearless, but about feeling the weight of your own soul and, even so, choosing verticality. It is understanding that your existential anguish is, in fact, the compass indicating that there is more land to be conquered within you. What if the pain that confuses you today is, in fact, a language of your soul trying to guide you? Listening to this guide, however, requires us to stay alert to the greatest trap on the path, the siren song of a life without risks, where the soul falls asleep under the weight of comfort. There is a silent temptation we all face, the temptation to adjust ourselves. To ease the internal tension of not being who we could be, many learn to ignore the intuition of the possible, trading vastness for anesthetized comfort. It is what Baudelaire would call spiritual boredom, a passive acceptance of an existence without relief. Ancestral wisdom warns us that an excess of ease can weaken the spirit. On the path of awakening consciousness, excessive comfort becomes the tomb where we bury our talents and our life force. Where was it that you accepted a lukewarm peace in exchange for silencing your inner truth? Emotional healing begins where you stop fighting what you feel and accept that you were born for something greater than simple social adjustment. The soul does not seek rest. It seeks expression. Do not allow the fear of internal conflict to rob you of the opportunity to experience real presence, the kind that only flourishes in the fertile soil of honesty with yourself. When we finally stop hiding behind these adjustments, the final challenge arises: how to live this immensity on the sacred ground of our daily routine. How, then, to sustain this search without falling into the trap of the spiritualized ego? The answer lies in translating this aspiration into an ethical posture and maturity in relationships. Human greatness in its deepest and most real form is not demonstrated in speeches, but in the quality of your presence in the now. Inspired by African philosophy, we understand that the individual only becomes fully human through connection with others and with the sacred that inhabits daily life. Assuming verticality means that your biology begins to respond to your spirituality. You no longer seek ready-made answers. You become the living question. Every gesture, every silent listening, and every ethical choice are the bricks of your spiritual construction. Elevation is a craftsman's work, slow, meticulous, and constant. You are not broken. You are in transformation. And this transformation requires you to honor the weight of your own formation, assuming that your life is, and always will be, a sacred dialogue with the infinite. In this dialogue, words grow weary and give way to breath. It is the moment to leave intellectual understanding behind and allow this restlessness to finally become your own breath. We have reached the point where theory becomes breath. Understanding sacred restlessness is not about finding a solution for anguish, but learning to inhabit it with elegance and purpose. As we saw through Baudelaire, elevation is a daily choice for verticality, a commitment to beauty that does not fade with time. African philosophy reminds us that you do not walk alone. You are the living expression of a lineage that always knew the sacred lives in the detail and in the resistance. Your soul refuses to accept a small life because it knows your true stature. To seal this encounter, I propose an internal ritual of silence and attention. During your next walk, feel the weight of your feet touching the earth and, at the same time, imagine an invisible thread pulling the top of your head toward the infinite. Breathe in this duality. You are made of clay, but you inhabit the sky. Do not try to resolve your restlessness now. Just observe it like one who observes a seed under the earth, knowing that the dark is the necessary womb for flowering. Feel your spine erect as an axis between the visible and invisible worlds. If these words touched something inside you, perhaps it is time to take one more step on this path of reconnecting with your inner truth. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving content that nourishes the soul with presence and authenticity. Share in the comments what resonated with your heart. Your story might be the mirror someone else needed to find. If you are looking for a safe harbor, know that our community is the sanctuary where fertile silence is shared and deepened. Enjoy the channel's posts, and to keep expanding this field of presence, we suggest the video pinned in the card. May it be a source of inspiration on your journey. Peace and light.